think we're probably ready to get started.
Awesome. Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Cheryl Bigley, and I'm very happy to be here and share about mindfulness. I am a physician. I am on the board and actually president of the board this year for Child Strive, but also work in kind of consulting as their medical director. And most of the work I do outside of Child Strive is at their clinic where I help kids with social emotional intelligence and dealing with their emotions. So it's wonderful to be able to share this with you all, and to thank you for your support of Child Strive and your support of kids. The keynote speaker couldn't have been more along my line because she talked about grit. And to me, one of the best ways to develop grit is to develop your skills of mindfulness. And so it was awesome to hear and to know that then I was going to be talking a little bit about mindfulness. I'm going to give you in the chat kind of the handout. I think, I'm not sure if I did it, but let's see. Yep, now it goes in. That if you want to cut and paste so that you have it for future, this is the handout that I would have given you if I saw you in person. So our first exercise, because to me, mindfulness is experiential, and I don't want to be sitting here having you think about it. I want you to feel what it is. So we're going to do a mindful check-in. And so get yourself comfortable in your seat in whatever form that is, or if you're standing, comfortable in your standing, and start checking in with your body. For many of you, you've been here for a couple hours. How does your body feel? You might just even scan it from the tip of your toes all the way up to the top of your head, checking out, how is my body feeling at this moment? Are there any areas that are calling attention? Are there any areas that are relaxed? How do I feel in my body? And then check into your emotions. How am I feeling emotionally right now? And where am I feeling these emotions? Checking in to perhaps your gut, your heart, common areas where emotions are felt. And then, how is my head, my brain at this moment? Is it calm? Is it jumpy? I don't know. Again, just checking in to see in a mindful way, what am I bringing? What self am I bringing today to this event at this moment in time? Perfect. All right, and then bring your attention kind of back to this room and space. So I know it's hard to do too much interactive in a group like this, but wouldn't it be interesting if we actually started meetings with a 30-second, because you could do it shorter, mindful check-in, so that you were actually aware of what you were bringing to the space. Because many times when we show up at work, we show up in life, we bring so many things that had been happening previous in the day, what happened yesterday, what's going to be happening in the next 2 hours. And by actually checking in, where am I right now? It might shift that meeting and that space to right now, instead of having our brain in before, after, or somewhere else. And what did you observe in yourself when you did that check-in? Because what we were looking at is where am I right now, which is what mindfulness is. The definition of mindfulness is it's simple, paying attention in the present moment to what is right now with acceptance, kindness, not trying to change what is, but just paying attention to what is. So many people think of mindfulness as a practice, meaning a meditation type practice or something else. And I would say mindfulness is a practice in the sense that you're practicing to stay present in the present moment. And you can get better at practicing by exercising. Just like we exercise other muscles, we can exercise our muscle for mindfulness. And you can get better at it by exercising. But it in itself is just noticing, am I here right now or am I somewhere else? So there are what I would call formal practices, which meditation is a commonly thought of formal practice for mindfulness. There's some other ones, and in one of your resources that I gave you, Mindfulness Northwest, they have quite a few different practices of mindfulness. There's a body scan, there are mindful meditations, there's an awareness of breath, which we're going to do a little bit later. There's mindful walking. So there's lots of different formal practices where you are doing an activity to strengthen your neural pathways and your muscles in your brain towards mindfulness. And it's that type of practice that gives you the grit that she was talking about in our keynote. But there's informal practices too. So informal practices, hopefully you do throughout the day. And they're things like taking a moment and noticing a beautiful flower when you're on a walk, or taking a moment to listen, truly listen to a child laugh, and really being present and enjoying that moment and not doing anything else. Those are the informal practices, and they take seconds. And the main thing they take, if to be honest, is remembering to do them, remembering to pay attention. So we're going to do another formal practice, or do a formal practice. The mindful check-in is kind of a formal practice. It's a short one. And this one is an awareness of breath, and it is a meditation type practice. So again, get your body comfortable. And with this, we tend to like you to be in a comfortable position, but in a more either lying flat or totally erect and upright, so that you can start focusing on your breath. People can close their eyes, they can keep them open depending on your comfort level with where you are. And paying attention to your breath. And when you pay attention to it, the breath is actually many things. You might notice it where it comes in at your nose, or perhaps the back of your throat, or in your lungs, or all the way down to your diaphragm, and perhaps your belly, if you're using your belly to breathe. And just noticing when your attention wanders, as it will, that you bring it back to the breath. And you may do a following it all the way through from your nose to your belly, or you may find that there's one spot that's easiest to pay attention to. And just put your attention there. Noticing the rise and the fall. Not trying to change your breath, but noticing. and bringing your attention back to the breath when you've noticed again that it's wandered off. Because there's no right way to breathe. There's no wrong way to breathe. In fact, it's been said that if you're breathing, there's more right with you than wrong. And the amazing thing about breath is it happens without us paying attention at all. And it's always happening, which makes it a wonderful anchor because it's something that is always happening. You can bring your attention back or to it if at a time you need to be present in the present moment. So sitting and noticing your breath. Again, not trying to change it, just noticing. Because it's in the noticing that we strengthen the muscle for present awareness. And the amazing thing about using the breath is that it's always with you. And learning to do a breathing exercise is an easy way to bring your attention back to the moment, because you can do it anywhere. No one will think it's odd if you breathe. So take a couple more moments to just observe your breath from the initiation at your nostrils down to your belly and back before we bring our attention back to the room and where we are right now. So bringing your attention back, how do you feel now? I think that was like 8-9 minutes. What do you notice in your body by taking those few moments to check in with your breath? My dog has to give her 2 cents in. And can you tell any change that has happened? Oops, sorry. Daisy's bark is a little startling sometimes if we get used to that quiet contemplation. Did anybody notice any changes in yourself, your body, your perceptions, just by being quiet for a few moments? It's a hard kind of, you can put it in chat, or you can just notice it privately. It doesn't matter. This was about giving you an experience. To me, what mindfulness does is it makes you, or it gives you the tools and the skills to become more resilient, which is the whole developing grit. And helps us have a way to de-stress, even though, as I said, we're not trying to change anything. We're not trying to change what's happening. But what happens is, as people are saying, I feel calmer. It's easier to breathe and focus. My mind slowed down. And that's what it does. I mean, I personally hate feeling stressed. And there are some times that life will hit you and you feel so stressed, but you don't have a time to go take a break. You've got to then go on to the next activity. And just taking a few moments to settle your body through breath, or one of the other practices we're going to talk about that's in the handout that I gave you in the beginning of the chat is a purposeful pause. So just taking time to feel both feet and take a breath. So I use this 2 steps in a breath before I enter exam rooms in my job as a pediatrician, so that I have a chance to resettle myself before I move forward. But you can use it in any other transition time and I really literally feel both feet. So I will step with both feet so that I feel them and take a breath and then touch a door handle or then touch my computer keyboard or whatever it is, that next step. So that's kind of an informal practice, again, to remind you, back to the moment, let go with what just happened. We're here, now I can move forward. Mindfulness also helps you, because you're staying present, to notice the beauty and the delight that can happen in our world. I don't know about you, but I've had so many times where I was on, let's say, vacation, and I was so busy planning and thinking about what was going to happen when vacation was over that I forgot to actually enjoy this trip that I had planned so hard and saved up to do. And that happens with all of us. We forget to enjoy the things that are happening around us. So one of the poems that I love to share is Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one that has flung herself out of the grass, who is now eating sugar out of my hand, the one that is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who's gazing around with her enormous, complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open. I don't know exactly what prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. So tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everyone die at last and too soon? So tell me, what is it that you plan to do today with your wild and precious life? I think Mary Oliver is amazing, and she totally understood that whole concept of staying present. So I invite you to think, where in your day could you do some observation and mindfulness in your life? Maybe where would you put a purposeful pause? Or just a few moments of breath or a mindful check-in? How could you see this fitting in your day? And what we found in our time together is it doesn't take very long. It really is more about remembering, and the best way to get good at it is to develop the muscle with practice. So someone said they're going to do it at transition at work, advocating for others to going home and entering a house full of 7 kids. No kidding. I was joked in my years as a pediatrician that I needed to write a book on parenting by deep breathing, because I think we might parent differently if we took a few breaths before we reacted to our kids, or our spouse, or kind of what's happening. And a lot of times it's sometimes best to just breathe and keep our mouths closed. And I wish I had known that more when I was raising my kids, but oh well. You can talk to them. They're all in their 30s. They can tell you all the things I didn't do that I now know. So as far as kind of our formal part of our session, do people have questions? Any thoughts? Any other thoughts on what we experienced today? One of the resources I gave you, and I'm going to give it back to you because the chat has other things, is there's a local, Mary Oliver's poem's called Summer Day, and you can find it easily online, because that's how I always just get it. I just type it in. So Mindfulness Northwest is a local organization that many from Child Strive know, because they help support me in some of the mindfulness teaching I do through Child Strive, but they have a lot of courses on mindfulness-based stress reduction, mindful self-compassion, as well as resources of audio practices that you can listen to. And so if you want to learn more about mindfulness, that's a really good local resource. And you could even sign up for one of their classes, and they do a really, really good job as far as teaching mindfulness, enough that you will have a good practice when you're done and will have enough. And we know that the learning of a mindful practice will change your brain and the function of your brain and how it works in about 6 weeks, through kind of our science and technology of functional MRIs and the parts of the brain that are being worked. So someone says, any tips on teaching mindful children with ADD? I would make it interactive. So as I said earlier, I'm a pediatrician, and I actually started the ADD clinic at the Everett Clinic. So with kids with ADD, they're great at learning some of these things, but they're probably not going to sit still. They're going to be much more active. So I would have them probably more do a walking or a moving. Meditation, I should teach it to my dog. And have them do something where they're, counting steps and paying attention to what's in their world. And so a walking meditation type practice, not something that's just sitting. I remember one of my sons has ADD, and I remember talking to him about doing this, and he looked at me and said, do you want to torture me? Sit and watch my breath. And he was right. So, a mindful practice where you do a mindful walk in your yard and you look for every little bug, every little ant, and focus your attention on what you're seeing. and what you're smelling and bringing in your senses, because really what you're trying to teach your child is to stay present, not necessarily stay quiet, because that's kind of not probably going to be as successful for a kid. Doesn't mean that adults can't learn the mindfulness with ADD. So, other questions? It was a good one. All right, well then I will pass on to Adrienne. Are you good?
I'm good. I just thank everyone for joining the session today, and we're really grateful to you, Dr. Bigley, for being here with us today. Our virtual conversations are a benefit to support Child's Drive and the work that we do in the community to make a difference in the lives of children and their families. To help us continue our important work, we ask that you consider making a gift.